Hey, how you doing? You're listening to the Light ATX with Chad, a.k.a. Church, and my sister, my co-host, Miss Janae Amore. How you doing this week?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm a little fidgety, man. I'm a little off my game right now. See, like I'm hitting tables.
See, hitting mics.
I'm getting aggressive already. I don't know what it is, man. How was your week?
It's the end of the month. My week is good. This is my last week fasting. So I'm glad.
Hallelujah.
I know, a whole month, 30 days. Sunday is the last day.
Come
Isn't
on,
that
man.
blessed?
Come on.
So I'm excited about being able to have breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
Eat eggs.
Yeah,
I'm missing that a little bit.
I don't skip a lot of meals, so.
Man, I'm missing breakfast. So,
Yeah.
But it's fine. I like I said, I do like fasting. I like being able. It's funny because it's like I find myself really hungry around like noon. And then when it comes to the part of like 4 time to start break, it's like all of a sudden I'm not hungry.
Really?
Yeah, it's really weird.
I don't know. You know what's really crazy is like I can do like a full-on fast, like nothing but water, or even go without even that.
Yeah.
And I do better than when I'm like nickel and diming it. Like if I'm like trying to do like a Daniel fast where I'm like allowed to eat some nuts, or I'm allowed to eat like that. Like it does not work out well for me because I'm like just a little bit and I just want more.
Yeah.
I would rather just go completely out.
How long can you do that for?
I think I've gone 10 or 12 days at the most.
Just water?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
No, that's intense.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of weight.
I don't no. I mean, yeah, kind of.
You had to have.
I don't know. Not when you no, because when you come off fast, you like buffet that thing. Come off that fast and go right to the Chinese buffet.
That's true,
it's
though.
all going on in 40 minutes, man. Everything I lost is right back.
All 10 pounds back.
I'm telling you, I'm drinking like a gallon and a half of like sweet tea and eating at the Chinese buffet until they kick me out.
Oh,
that's pretty much how that's working. No, it's not
That's
that
funny.
bad. It's not that bad. Slight exaggeration.
Yeah.
But
That's funny,
it's kind of true. It's kind of true.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. I don't know. Like this week has been nuts for me. Like I don't know. I know you're going to school and you're doing all these things, but like literally, it has just been absolutely bonkers for me.
Like in what way? That you'd like to
I don't
share?
know. I don't know. I think there's just a lot of going on in every day. I mean, like literally, like this week, like. I love you, God. I really do. But I mean, like my truck broke down. My dad, I go to work Monday and I had like so much to do. And I get to work and I'm immediately informed that my dad was in the hospital.
I'm sorry
So
to hear that.
yeah, he was, he fell down like Thursday night. And then I guess he laid there for like 4 days.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's intense.
Well, because he lives by himself. And the really cruddy thing about it is, like, I felt bad because I think it was Friday or it was Saturday. Saturday, I just went into work just to do a few little things. And as we were leaving, I was going to drive by his house. And like, I get all the way to his house, like from a block from his house. And I'm looking at the time. I just want to get home to my wife. I'm like, you know what? I'll go see him like Monday.
Oh my gosh.
Like I would have found him like a day after he fell, but he sat there, laid there for the entire weekend. Yeah, I felt so bad. I felt bad.
How was he found?
I don't. A buddy of mine went to check on him because we both did the same thing. We were both going to go see him and hadn't heard from him. Called him like 2 or 3 times. I called him Thursday. I called him Friday, and then. He never responded, which is completely unlike him. So my buddy James went by to check on him and heard him moaning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
4 days, like no
Not
food, just
funny
laying
at all.
there.
I
No.
know I'm laughing, but I'm just like, it's like, oh my God. 4 days, no water, none
Just
of his
laying there.
medication,
Yeah,
no
that's
food, no
crazy.
nothing. Like literally, I've fallen and I can't get up.
It's not funny.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's like it really rocked me a little bit. But at the same time, I'm in the hospital like yelling at him because he's got like the life alert thing, and it's like hanging on a doorknob in the hall.
Oh my gosh!
and then come to find out, like this is I don't know how we got on this. This is like crazy. I love my dad. I do. But like there was at one point the doctors come in. And my dad goes, I remember you. And we're like sitting there like, what's he talking about? And like he's like His mind's like frazzled, and he's just talking about stupid stuff and saying stupid things. And he's like, I remember you. And he's like, you remember me? He's like, yeah, I was in here 10 days ago. And we're like, what's he talking about? He's like, oh yeah, you're right. You were in here. So basically 10 days before this happened, he checked himself into the hospital and stayed in the hospital for like 3 days because of some heart complications. And I'm like, no phone call? Like, none of us that care about you even knew you were in a hospital. Like, at this point, you know what? Go ahead and fall down again, bro.
I didn't do that to him.
No, I'm serious.
I'm still stuck on the fact that he has Life Alert, and it's just...
It's like, no. What
was that going to do?
I have no idea.
On the door.
I have no idea.
Like, that's exactly what it was for.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Was for him falling and not being able to get up.
It's the same thing. Like, why didn't you call me when last week? Oh, I didn't want to bother you. Bro. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, seriously. Like, I don't know. Like, he's old and he thinks he's a burden. And I'm just like, now I'm just mad. I'm not like, I went from like caring and being compassionate to like literally being upset because you went in the hospital and didn't tell any of us. Like, none of us knew. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was kind of a crazy week, but he's good. He's good. He just, I think what happened is he fell and he got a concussion.
Yeah.
And you know, he's 77 years old, you know? So
that's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, when I found out he was in the hospital 10 days before, I felt like hitting him again.
Oh my
God. That is not biblical.
Not at all. Oh my gosh, well, I'm glad that he's okay.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's just got a black eye and his pride's a little hurt. So
Jesus.
Yeah. So, but
well, we'll keep him in our prayers.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to get out of the hospital because we're gonna have a talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, about this Life Alert thing that's hanging on the wrong door. First of all, it's hanging on the guest bedroom doorknob.
Well, it should be on him.
No, yeah, it should be on him. Apparently, yeah. No. That wouldn't make any sense.
Literally,
that would be like calling your family when you go to the hospital for 3 days. Why would you do something like that? I mean, I don't know. It just.
Why would you have the Life Alert? Like, what do you have your phone for then? I mean,
I don't know. I want one.
We do have phones.
I want one. I've fallen and I can't get up.
Terrible.
I'm sorry. It's terrible.
He's gonna be on the commercial now.
Yeah. Anyway, but I don't know what it is. It's you know it's crazy. Like our life is good right now. There's like a lot of good things going on, but like literally you have to just kind of look through the mess because it's like it just seems like attack after attack after attack. It just literally it just feels like being tested in every single way.
Man,
like. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I'm just trying to win.
You're just going through sometimes you just go through those.
It's a friggin'
those
minefield.
Valleys.
No, it's a minefield.
You're just going through the.
It's a minefield, literally. Like I'm like trying to avoid them all. Some of them I'm stepping on intentionally.
See, I definitely I'm going through some stuff with my job. Aww. And there's an all, but there's also like I just feel like God's telling me it's time to kind of go somewhere else or do something else. Like I feel like I'm in that place, but also I realize that God really has me because He told me to go to this job first of all, and then there was a lot of issues, a lot of things came up that was also. Issues from kind of childhood, like always felt like I was misunderstood, things like that. And now I'm realizing like it's starting to work itself out. Yeah,
always.
God says whatever happens in dark comes to light. And so it's starting to kind of work itself out where things are being shown and the people who are giving me a hard time, things turn around. Like people that didn't like me at first, some of them really like me now. That's even including the kids. Yeah. Like there was a kid who hated me. She said, anyone but Janae, any staff but Janae can work with me. She literally said that. Yeah. She said, I will deal with any of them but her. Yeah. And they were like, now I'm one of her favorites. And it's crazy how God works like that.
No, I'm sure you're great at that. I would be awful at it.
I do love it. It's not the kids aren't the problem. Yeah. And being I
would be so petty. I'm like, you don't like me? I got you.
I was a little petty with her because they had me work with her because they knew that she didn't like me.
I love it.
So I just sat there and I was just, sometimes they said kill with kindness. Yeah. So it'd be nice, but then she would get mad at me for things like little petty things. Like she was a high suicidal, right? And so she has to be on suicide
How
watch.
old?
She's 16.
Hey, for those of y'all don't know, my sister, my co-host, she works at the Williamson County.
I'm a juvenile supervision officer.
Yeah. So she works with troubled kids and she works kids with issues.
Yeah.
She obviously also works with adult with issues.
I do.
And children with issues.
I do. When I came there, they were like, I said, I feel like God brought me here to help kids. And she said, she was actually one of my coworkers. And she said, come on, you're going to be helping the adults too. Yeah. And I actually, my coworker, shout out, I won't put her name out there, but I actually walked her through a self-deliverance. Come on, man. She got a self-deliverance. She's going through a lot of things. And I was like, you're being attacked. And, she's a spiritual person, but of course there's a difference between spirituality and being with Jesus. Yeah. Of course. So I just told her how to go about canceling the demons and all of that. She did that. And she said she went home. And I remember I went home to pray and God told me to pray for her. So I started praying for her, and then all of a sudden I started warring in the spirit. You know how that happens? Like out of nowhere, you're like speaking in tongues and you're talking, you're like killing demons in the spirit with your words. That's what happened all of a sudden. I'm fighting for her. Come on. She tells me the next day, or it was the next day or 2 days later, that night she went and she prayed and she had a self-deliverance, and that she actually said she felt like things leave her. And she said she was kind of like shaking and like twitching. Aww. And like the demons were leaving her, and she said she felt like she didn't know how to explain the feeling, but I was like, I know exactly what she's going through. She's going through the deliverance of those spirits leaving her body. Yeah. And she even said she asked the Holy Spirit to come in her after, like to actually like reside in her after the spirits left. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's exactly what I told her to do. Come on. I was like, yes. So she was just like, I feel so much lighter. And I woke up. She's like, I just want to go sleep after. I was exhausted. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. And she said she went to sleep. And I was like, do you have any dreams? She's like, no, I just knocked out. And she's like, I woke up just feeling really light. And I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's like, I am able to help the kids and the adults that are there. And I didn't know God would use me that way. So
yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah, you did. Look at stop it. Yeah, you did.
I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. Yeah. I feel like it's time.
I'm calling you on it.
It's true. I never know how it's gonna unravel, how it's gonna unfold, and it's just really exciting when I see it happen. Yeah. And sometimes I want to grab people and just be like, just follow Jesus. It just doesn't work like that.
I know.
It didn't work for me. Yeah. So I can't expect other people to do it.
We talk about it all the time. I think we talked about it last week with Pastor John. Like sometimes they just want to just kind of, they're like teetering on that edge. Yeah. And you just kind of want to push them off.
Yeah. Or they kind of.
Hurry up.
Because she said something like, after all of this, it's like she still wants to flirt with worldly stuff.
Sure.
She's still in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's
that takes time though.
It takes time.
For some.
Some people, they find Jesus hits them and all of a sudden they're just like completely changed. They stop cussing that day. They drop everything. I'm like, gosh, and the rest of us. Yeah. It's like a process.
Yeah, I just want a miracle, not a process. Man. Hey, check it out. Listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to get right back into it, man. We're going to dig in it a little bit deeper and get to the meat. And, if you want to tune in, we just want to let you know that you can check us out at the Light ATX on all the social media platforms. You can listen to our full shows at the YouTube channel, the Light ATX, and we're on 106.7 FM here in Georgetown, Texas, every Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. We'll be right back with more of the Light ATX with Chad and Janae. See you in a minute. Hey, we're back with more of the Light ATX with Chad and Janae, and nothing really scripted. We're just chopping it up and talking like we always do. We like to say spirit-led around here. So I want to get back to kind of some of what you were talking. I know we were talking about a little bit about deliverance. I know I didn't expect us to go there today, but I know we were talking a little bit about deliverance and a little bit more about spirituality and somebody that you were, I don't know, trying to walk through deliverance. Did you kind of want to expound any more on that? Or
I mean, well, when we talk about deliverance, I've even said before, there's self-deliverance every day. Yeah. You have to go through a self-deliverance every day. I feel like I have been being attacked in certain ways. I found myself not being as like, I pray every day, every night, but maybe
Yeah.
not being as prayerful or conscious, or like I can feel like I'm trying to be attacked. Like how you said you were going through some things. I
Yeah.
can feel my spirit trying to be attacked.
Yeah.
And I've just been asking God to keep me strong in
Yeah.
praying and kind of being ahead of that.
Yeah.
So that's really that of what I've been going through. I know when it comes to deliverance and helping people through it, it's definitely up to them. That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's definitely up to them. You
Yeah.
can't force deliverance on anyone.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy for me, just to be completely real. And look, I mean, for those of you listening out there, those of you that follow us, look, that's all we really want to do is just be authentic and be real. We are certainly not perfect. I definitely am not. But you know, anyway, going back to deliverance, it's weird for me, right? Because I absolutely believe in it,
Yeah.
100%. But I've been through it, and I like it didn't. In a way, I don't know how to exactly say this because I don't want to like be negative or anything like that. But I feel like it wasn't at all what I expected it to be, and I don't know if I believe that true deliverance is different. I believe that it's something that you can't doubt. I believe that it's an experience that God walks you through, whether he does it through self-deliverance or whether he does it through, a deliverance ministry or something like that. I mean, I know that it's crazy, but like literally, like I can see just demons just fleeing, and I know that has happened. And I completely believe in deliverance. But I feel like sometimes to some people, and it's certainly maybe the way it came off to me, it just felt very scripted.
What do you mean? What happened that you have that kind of like perception?
I don't. Okay, so.
Because what are you referring to exactly? Because I think there's deliverance. I think everybody has their.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I know what I'm talking about in deliverance, but what are you referring to?
So I guess okay, to say this in a really healthy way, and don't nobody go out and rat me out or whatever. Okay, but to say this in a really healthy way, there is a very prominent deliverance ministry in town.
Okay.
And absolutely, the people tied to it, the people who run it. They are 100% without a doubt some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life. They are, I mean, they are literally anointed beyond belief and just super, super sweet.
What's the issue?
Huh?
I said, let's get to the issue. What's the issue?
Yeah. So on the day that we did our deliverance, they kind of have like this booklet, right? And you just run through this. The entire process was very scripted, and you run through this, and you basically they walk you through this like Trapper Keeper album deliverance manual that they've got set out, right? And you denounce this, and this. You denounce this, and this. You're basically reading and repeating things that they tell you to say. And I guess, I don't know, maybe in some way, I think because I don't know, I thought it was just going to be much more spiritual. I thought it was just going to be much less scripted. And I don't know, maybe I got in the way a little bit. But I can't tell you that I felt different, and I really expected to,
Yeah, I think I actually heard someone, it was a pastor, preach about how he said he would watch other pastors. I don't know if he was a pastor, he was just preaching. So he was just talking about how he watched other pastors. And he said he's heard some of the worst sermons, right? He'd be like, oh, that sermon was terrible. He would leave and it touched somebody. Yeah. Right. And he was like, the difference between me and them was that they were open and they were ready to receive in whatever aspect or whatever form.
Yeah, that's why I think, I want to be honest. The people are incredible. and their deliverance ministry is very fruitful. So I don't know. For me, I think it's very possible that, you can get in your own way. I mean, but I just didn't see it as A, B, C, D, E kind of a process. Like, that's not what I expected it to be. Like, literally. And I think that, just being completely honest and owning it a little bit, I think that because it wasn't anything like I expected it to be, that I don't know, maybe I wasn't submitted, maybe I wasn't surrendered, maybe, I felt like I'm just reading words off of a page rather than feeling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely what you felt.
Yeah. So, but my wife and I went through deliverance at the exact same time with these people. And she was rocked. So yeah. I just, and again, I'm definitely not trying to say anything negative about these people, because I mean it. They are extremely fruitful. I just think that the personal experience that I had was just like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, don't get it twisted. Like, I absolutely 100% believe in deliverance. I absolutely do.
I think just that experience that you had wasn't for you.
Right.
Because I had deliverance in a different way. My deliverance.
Right.
They didn't have a script. Now,
how did we get on deliverance? I'm just like,
I don't know, because
I have no idea how we got there.
That's what we're going to talk about today.
No, that's what's up.
So my deliverance wasn't like, there wasn't a script per se. I think they had a way that they went about it, because you have to have some kind of outline, right? Yeah. So they did read me a couple scriptures. I did say I accepted Jesus. Just like that kind of thing. But my deliverance was very spiritual. Yeah. The people were very prophetic. They prophesied on me. They told me about the demons that are over my family. They talked about generational curses in my life. They talked about what I dealt with from the womb. I mean, I was touched. They were like, Jesus wants to be your father, knowing my daddy issues. I mean, it was like, and they didn't know my daddy issues, but like they said it in a way that hit my spirit. Okay. That was like God's telling me, like, all of a sudden, I know he's like, God's telling me he wants to be your father, like in the place of your father. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, you don't even know what's up with me and my fathers. Like, I actually have some really crazy stories. So it's like, for him to say that was like, oh no, God, Jesus, like, God's talking to you. You're being
I think that's exactly what I expected. Yeah. Though I expected God to really kind of speak through somebody, and I think that, and it's just, again, this is my opinion, when it's so scripted, I think maybe you don't give God an opportunity to speak. I really do want to. I want to go on record and say, like, again, I just, the people are amazing. What they do is extremely fruitful in people's lives in our community. I just don't feel like it was the way that I was supposed to be delivered. I don't feel like it was the way that I was supposed to be reached. I really did expect like this, just, prophetic gift just flowing through people, speaking, speaking to my secrets. Kind of like that deal. Like how'd you know that? You know what I mean? Like, I expected just this insane experience. And I think that that's a good thing. I mean, the reality of the matter is I went into it expecting with an expectation.
But you did have an expectation for them to be a certain way, and not an expectation for you to be set freed.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, I get it, though, because, like, mine was very spiritual. So when I think of deliverance, mine was very spiritual. Right. I mean, they even told me what my name meant. Yeah. And when I Googled it, that was right. And they didn't even Google it.
Come on.
It was crazy. They asked me, they're like, do you know? I thought that, right? I was like, oh, they were like, what's her name?
Benny Hinn was in the back.
It's this. So they asked me, like, in the middle of my deliverance, I'm crying and everything, right? They're laying hands on me. And then they're like, what does your name mean? And I said, what? And they're African people, so, like, they're very much about names and meanings. Yeah. And they're like, what does your name mean? And I said, I was quiet. And they were like, do you know what your name means? Yeah. I said, no. And they were like, oh. So all of a sudden they start speaking in tongues. And they're going. I'm just like, what in the world is happening right now? Yeah. And the next thing I know, they're just like, favor. She's God's favorite. Her name means favor. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, what do they talk? Like, what does this mean? And they're like, God's giving you a new name. Your new name is favor. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like, this is interesting. Definitely
That's
don't feel
nice.
like his favorite, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Been through some things.
Yeah.
Don't feel favored, but
I
it's
had
okay,
somebody,
right?
I had somebody tell me that too one time. You're one of God's favorite.
I'm
I'm like,
like, woo, this is how he treats his favorite. No, I'm
man.
kidding. So then I went and I looked up. I was like, okay, if my new name is Favor, then maybe I need to change my name, right? So then I go, because I'm like, I'm in the spirit now. God, my name is Favor. So I go and I look up names that mean favor, right? First name comes up is Hannah. And I'm like, I'm not a Hannah. So I keep going, right? Other names. Janae came up, but it was spelled differently.
Oh, really?
It's spelled Janay. So there was no way that they could have
Janay. That's just seems like a, it's like somebody just decided to spell Janet differently.
No, really. Like I looked
That's
up.
crazy,
I
man.
looked up names that mean favor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I even can look it up now. I was like, yeah, I looked up names that mean favor, and the first one that came up was Hannah.
Yeah.
And then I keep looking, and it's like Janae.
Yeah.
And I was like, and there's no way they could have Googled my name because it wasn't spelled
Right.
that way. And if I Google my name, that doesn't come up. Like name
Okay.
meanings don't come up, but it's the same pronunciation. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? So it's really cool because I was like, this is crazy. So they were definitely being like, God was
Yeah.
speaking to them. I was like, this is pretty awesome. Like,
Yeah.
so I had a very spiritual experience. I can understand that like scripted thing would make me definitely feel disconnected.
It did in a way. It really did for me.
Yeah.
You know? And I, I mean, my wife and I discussed it, and I don't know, like I think it would be completely different if you were so submitted that you were literally taking a breath and maybe regurgitating or stating those words literally with every bit of your heart or anything like that. But it just wasn't what I expected, and I think that's a great term for it is maybe, and again, maybe I disconnected myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible.
Yeah, when I had my coworker go through her self-deliverance,
Yeah.
I gave her that book, the book that had the freedom from soul wounds and demons.
Yeah.
And I gave her the book. I was like,
Yeah.
God's telling me, just here, take it.
Yeah.
And so I gave it to her, and it actually went through a step-by-step process. But the step-by-step process wasn't say this.
Yeah.
It was like step 1, write down everything, like from like all your traumas,
Yeah.
right? Or just write down all your traumas, list it.
Yeah.
People, events, car wrecks, anything, any kind of traumas, write it down.
Okay.
And then it was like, the next one was like, write down from what happened in the womb. So
Okay.
like if your mom wanted a girl, but you're a boy, if your dad didn't want you, if like stuff like that, like how was your mom feeling in that moment? Because what goes on in the womb.
How are you supposed to even know that though?
Well, first of all, your mom might say, I know because my mom told me like what she was going through.
Well,
at
my
the
mom
time.
reminds me all this.
Exactly. Like sometimes our parents tell us, he said, if your mom
Yeah.
didn't tell you or you don't know or you're adopted or something like that, which that's also a thing. If you're adopted,
Yeah.
you can only imagine what your mom was going through. So you can pray and ask God to reveal it to you.
Sure.
What were the things that my mom was experiencing while she was pregnant with me?
Yeah.
And so you pray and you ask God and you meditate on that and ask him to reveal it to you. So that was another one. So it was like, write out all these traumas, right? And it was and then it said after that, I believe there was like a forgiveness aspect of it. I'm pretty sure there's always that, because spirits are attached to unforgiveness.
Always.
So I'm sure there was a forgiveness aspect of it. And then, it was just telling you how to go about the process of it. It didn't give you a step-by-step, say this, and then use this scripture. It was like, write out all your stuff, and now it's in your own words, and now it's through your own expression.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she was able to connect and do that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I'm connected with my traumas. She wrote it all out. And it was crazy because when I wrote out all my traumas, I actually, that was the week I was kind of sick. Like I had the sore throat. Right after that, my throat started getting scratchy. Like right after I was writing it at work. I was trauma dumping at work. So I'm writing it, and then all of a sudden my throat was feeling scratchy, and then I had a sore throat the next day. Yeah. And then I was sick that week, right? I wasn't feeling well. And then she went through it where I sat with her. We call it the trauma table at work when all the kids are asleep.
Trauma table.
Yeah, all the kids are asleep. Me and her trauma dump, and we trauma bond.
Oh my, trauma bond? Oh my God, dude, I'm out of here.
Talk about our traumas.
Yeah, we want nothing to do with it. Two girls at the trauma table.
Right, we're like,
I'm
it's
out.
the trauma table.
Every dude's running.
Either you're gonna trauma dump with us, or you gotta go.
No, trauma bond.
We're trauma bonding right now. So
I don't even know what to say. That like I can see that like a bumper sticker. I don't know, trauma bond.
we were trauma bonding. So like
it's like some thriller movie or something.
She was writing it out, and right after she wrote it out, she was like, "My throat feels like it hurts. It feels sore." So I asked my therapist. I was like, "What does that mean?" Because I was like, me and her both went through that, and she said, "You're giving." He was like, "You're giving your trauma a voice."
Yeah. He
said, "You gave it a voice." He's like, "You might have." Kept a lot of that stuff down, but writing it out and really letting all that out gave it a voice.
Yeah.
And so now it's like freed. And a lot of times when demons want to leave people, and we see it in the deliverance where people manifest demons.
Sure.
And so people manifest, they usually have to hold people because when the demon is leaving them, they want to throw the person and like hurt them on the way out.
Yeah.
So that's why when you see people manifest and they're like throwing their body around and stuff like that, it's because the reason why they have to hold them is because they'll try to throw them down on the ground to hurt them. They want to hurt them on the way out because their whole purpose of being in you is to harm you. So if they're like, I'm being casted out of here, I at least can try to give you a concussion on the way out. Yeah. I'll try to hurt you on the way out. I'll try to do something. So I think that I felt like maybe the fact that I was speaking it out and us kind of hurting in our throat and giving it a voice, it was like, maybe it was kicking and screaming. The demon was like kicking and screaming on the way out the voice box.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, you know what's crazy is like, I think there's probably a time in our lives, like I'm certainly, before God or somebody who doesn't believe in God or know God in some way. I think sometimes they can hear these stories or these these things that, certain people might, like you have a very clear perspective and experiences with this, right? And I think that anybody kind of looking from the outside in, sometimes, people are like, okay, this is freaking nuts. I mean, there's like, that's not even true. Not possible. But, with me, it's crazy. I know this is a really crazy statement, but I think that the more you begin to know God and the more you experience him and all that, like the more you realize that like anything is possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit here and listen to somebody's experience and go, that's fake, something like that. Anything. I guess for me, like honestly, like literally, I mean, a horse could go riding by with a leprechaun on it right now and be like, that's God. Like I know it's a stupid thought, but I'm just saying, like with God, like anything is possible, and it's really personal.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about the deliverance of your coworker, or your deliverance, or we're talking about the deliverance that I went through, and I just feel like certain things work for certain people, certain things work in a certain way for certain people, and vice versa. Sometimes things don't work for certain people. Like my walk with God and how God is going to reach me is completely different than how he may reach somebody else.
Right.
And some of that is frustrating too sometimes. Like we were talking about earlier, I mean, like I'm serious. Like I have seen people miraculously cured from addiction,
Right.
I mean, completely on heroin one day and radically saved and off heroin the next day with no withdrawals, with no any of that. And if you know anything about heroin, when you're kicking heroin, like you're literally like, you got to have sugar, Jolly Ranchers. I mean, you're freaking out. I mean, it's not good. It is really, really, I mean, it's disastrous.
It's a demon. It's a literal demon.
For real. But like I've seen people radically change from that. And then
when the demon
I'm over here begging God, Lord, please take this. I'm tired. Like I need a miracle too. Like, but I think for some of us it's a process. For me, it's got to be a process. I would love to be radically just different one day. And I've just had to work through things a little bit at a time.
I don't know if you're surrendered to that.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I mean, I say I am.
Yeah,
I say I am.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You're like, Are we gonna do this?
Yeah, we're gonna do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you got to say? Go ahead.
Here.
No, we're not doing therapy. I just want to hear your perspective so that I can deny it. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Nah, I didn't want any helpful hints.
That's all we needed. That's all we needed.
I don't
We're
want
done
any
here.
helpful hints. I don't want any like A, B, C, D. You got it. I don't want none of that. I just want you to judge me so that
I think you just like proved your own.
I just like
my
what?
Point.
Like what?
You just proved my point.
No, I didn't.
You're like, I want you to tell me so I can deny it. Like,
well, yeah.
That's exactly.
I don't have to agree with everything you say. I love you though. No,
that's what I mean. Being surrendered to it is like maybe
you're surrendered to what?
You're a little, like I don't know, I don't know the word for it. Like you're very, I want to say like a rock, like solid. Like I don't want to say stuck, but you're in your way.
Yeah,
you are very like
100%
strong on what you want, and so you're like, tell me so I can deny it. And so it's like, 100%. Do you think maybe you approach God in that way?
I don't know if I do. I mean, I think that I think inherently it is who I am. I am very stubborn. I am very controlling. Yeah. I am all of those things. But I can promise you that in private and in my private life, I don't want to be that person. Like I literally, I know that I'm a new creation. I'm just talking to God about maybe kind of speeding up the process. Like, Lord, can you, I really want that to be gone. And then, but on the other end of that though, I mean, the really cool thing about it is, sometimes you have to remember, first of all, that there's no condemnation in Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can condemn ourselves. Like I can absolutely condemn myself. And I think that when I get there, regardless, we know my I do have personality traits that are difficult. I mean, they're difficult for me to deal with. So I know they're difficult for my wife to deal with. They're difficult for anybody who chooses to love me, and you have to choose to love me, because if you don't, anyway. But my point is that at the end of the day, I really don't want to be that person. And the good thing about it is when I get to a point where I'm just, I think when you want to change drastically, you get tired. You get tired of being that person. I get tired of failing tests. I get, I get tired of like somebody cuts me off on the highway and I respond incorrectly. I mean, like I just little things like that. I really don't want that in my life. I don't want it privately. I don't want it publicly. But the good thing about it is I think when I get to the point of condemnation, like God throws me a bone and he shows me growth. And I know that even though I haven't conquered a lot of things in my life, and God hasn't conquered a lot of things in my life, probably because I haven't allowed him to, that I've grown significantly. Like, and that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because and sometimes you just have to be grateful for growth.
Yeah.
And I am.
And I understand that because, like, as I go through things, because, of course, every day I'm definitely not perfect. So sure. As I go through my issues and I reflect on my day, so when I pray at night, I reflect back on my day and I structure my prayer and I try to come to him with, like, gratitude first and thankfulness. Yeah. And then I go into forgive me and have grace and mercy on me for X, Y, and Z. And I'll name specific things I did. And then I'll talk to God and ask him, like, what are those spirits behind that led me to make those type of decisions?
Right.
And then once he reveals to me and I start speaking, get rid of the demon of whatever, or the spirit of this or the spirit of that, he'll start revealing more to me on which spirits I should cast out of myself. And I'll just really pray on those in that moment. And it's very helpful for me. I know that when I go through that, that's really helpful for me because he really tells me, it's this spirit, it's that spirit, and I'll just be speaking it and saying it. I'm like, okay, there it is. Those are the spirits behind that.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that. I mean, the funny thing about it is, regardless, I think when you belong to God, which I do, I absolutely 100% belong to God. He is my Father. He reminds me all the time that I'm his son, and I think that any disconnect in between that is usually my fault. But there's a lot of things like, you said earlier, I think that the spirit of unforgiveness is a really big one for me to deal with, because I don't, it's not that I have a problem just forgiving other people. I have a problem with forgiving myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I deal with that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. When you say you're condemning yourself a lot, because there's conviction. The conviction is positive.
Right. And I mean, that's the big difference. I mean, it's never condemnation with God. It's always conviction.
Right.
You know, but you know, I mean, there's just, you know, it's different. I don't know. I'm just a different kind of dude. You know, I just am. You know, I'm competitive. I shoulder weight. Like, you know, that's the biggest thing with me is just, you know, sometimes I take it all on and I don't give it to God. He's got to take it.
Right.
You know, that's the craziest thing, right?
Yeah.
Like God wants to carry it for you.
Right.
So much so that if you don't give it to him, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
And then it's just, you know, that's a whole nother ball game though. That's crazy.
I mean, because you're not a submissive guy.
I'm not.
And so I think that's your issue that you're coming up against is that you have to submit to God.
Yeah.
And you're not really, you're very, like you said, and the thing is about that is it makes you a go-getter.
Yeah.
And those qualities that you're also like fighting against also help you.
Sure.
So they help you when it comes to business. It helps you when it comes to being a dreamer. It helps you when it comes to being creative. It helps you when it comes to like just really like pushing through that thing. But also it hinders you when it comes to like submitting to God. It can hinder you because you're like, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to push through this. I want this. And you're like pushing through what you want instead of being like, okay, God, I'm going to let you do it. I'm going to submit to it. And it's like, that balance is hard.
It is. But I think the cool thing about it is that, going back to conviction, it is the desire of my heart. I don't have a freaking clue how to do it. Like literally, like I'm telling you, like privately, like I'm on my knees begging him, like Lord, take this. Like literally, this is not what I want. I just, you know, I saw you cure that dude of heroin addiction. Take this. You know what I mean? Take this, take this, take this. Like literally, I want to live for him because one thing that you know about me is, and again, you know, I'm controlling. I am that dude. I'm going to kick doors open. You know what I mean? That's just who I am. And I've had to learn the hard way that that's absolutely not what God wants. I want, you know, I don't want to manipulate anything in my life. I don't want to be impatient or anything like that. But it's tough when I really kind of don't have any idea how to surrender, but I know it's the desire of my heart because in private, I'm begging him. I know that I want it because I know what the fruit of that looks like. And I know what the fruit of my own effort looks like. You know what I mean? And it's night and day difference. Yep. You know what I mean? You know, you were talking about something earlier that I don't know why, and it's kind of off topic, but this is a really, really crazy. Actually, we got to take a break. So, all right. Hey, listen, check it out, man. You're listening to the Light ATX with Chad and Danae. We're going to take a few minutes. I want to remind you that if you want to check us out, you can listen to the full show, all of our episodes, our weekly episodes on the Light ATX on YouTube, and you can check us out on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at the Light ATX. There should be a way to check us out personally. And you can also listen to our show live on 106.7 FM right here in the Georgetown, North Austin area every Sunday. And we'll be right back with a little bit more content. We're not done yet.
No, we're not.
Y'all come back. Hey, we're back with more Chad and Janae on the Light ATX. And I really want to get back into this because this is a crazy experience, right? We were talking about earlier how you said something about, you know, somebody would like pray or somebody was doing something like, man, that was terrible. You know what I mean? And it's funny to me, like sometimes I self-analyze everything. Like I do. I mean, I am so critical of absolutely everything. And I don't mean it in a judgmental way. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I'm really good at picking out flaws, not just in myself, but in processes. You know, I'll go to concerts and analyze everything from the sound quality to, you know, I mean, absolutely tear it apart. You know what I mean? And, I had an experience that, and this kind of made me think about this because we were talking about my dad when we first started and some stuff like that. So I go out to lunch with my dad, and this was probably 6 months ago, right? It was so funny, right? Well, it was funny later. So we go out, we go to this Mexican restaurant. We're in like Temple, Texas, or something like that, Belton or Temple, Texas, something like that. And we go out, and we're just eating lunch, and my dad shows up, and he's 77 years old. He's got his cane, and I'm like holding the door open, waiting for him for like 15 minutes for him to travel 20 feet. Like he's barely moving. I mean, you can tell like his back's hurting. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, literally, it felt like it took him 15 minutes to get 20 feet. Like, he's just barely moving, and you can hear him like grunting with every step. And I'm like, oh God, yeah. So we go to eat lunch, and we're eating lunch, and I started to think about it or something like that, and God's like, pray for him. And I'm like, what? And, we're in this busy Mexican restaurant, right? And it's so funny, right? Because God's telling me, God's saying, lay your hands on him and pray for him, pray for healing, And it was crazy because I absolutely believe in that. I really do. And so I go in the bathroom, and I literally have this full-blown conversation with God. Like, I'm literally I'm like, are you serious? Like, is this really you? Like, I'm having this argument. Like, somebody's walking in to go to the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom, like, trying to talk God out of this. I'm like, there's no way. Because I don't want to lay my hands on him and believe in every bit of that, and like nothing happened, right? I just don't. I'm already seeing failure.
Oh,
like,
no.
I'm like trying to talk God out of this. I'm like, Lord, please don't make me do this. Please don't make me do this. We're busy restaurant, yada, yada, yada. So, long story short, so we finish dinner and we walk outside, and I knew without a doubt that I had to do it. I knew, like, God was not going to let me off. And there was no way that I was going to hop in my car and feel like feel like a disobedient jerk.
Yes.
The entire ride home, right? So I go to my dad, and I'm like, hey, listen, man, I know I don't want this to sound crazy, but I feel like God is definitely telling me to pray for you, to pray for healing, over your back, over your body. I mean, it just hurts me to see you struggling just to do something so simple as walking. You know what I mean? And he's like, no. So, and I'm just going to say this, like, and I don't mean this pridefully, but the gift of gab is that's like, it's my gift, I mean, that's what I do. I run my mouth for Jesus. I run my mouth all the time anyway, whether it's for God or not, right? Mm-hmm. Like, speaking is something that I do well, and communicating is something that I usually do at a pretty high level. So, I go to pray over my dad, and I put my hand on his back, specifically on his lower back, and I go to pray for healing, and it was literally, I'm not even kidding you, like, for somebody who has the utmost confidence in prayer and communication, it was the worst prayer that I have ever prayed in my entire life. Like, I'm one of those dudes, like, people are like, I wish I prayed like Chad. I see that in other people too, you know what I mean? Like, I know that I love to hear God through me. And it's not me, I know that, but I love to hear God through me. I love to hear how eloquently he prays. I love to hear how boldly he prays. I put my hand on my dad's back, and I stunk the joint up. Like, it was awful. It was the worst prayer I've ever prayed in my entire life. I'm like fumbling around trying to pick up I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. Like, literally, I prayed for him, and then I walked away going, man, that sucked. Like, it was awful. I'm not kidding you. Like, the whole way home, I'm like, I called my wife. I'm like, man, I just prayed for healing over Daddy Clint, and man, dude, I might have made it worse. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure that not only did he not get healed, but I'm pretty sure he's even more afflicted now because of my terrible prayer, right? And it was so funny. Like, I'm not kidding you. This is where my mind went the entire time, right? So it had like a week had passed. And I went out I was getting ready to leave the house. I'm getting ready to go to work, and I get in the car, and as soon as I get in the car, my dad calls, and he's like, hey, what are you doing, son? Yada yada yada. And I'm like, I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right, and he's like, listen, I've been wanting to talk to you for, a week or so. And I don't even know how to say this or that. And I'm like, well, just say it. He's like, I don't know what's going on with you or what. And immediately I'm like, oh man, this dude's about to tell me, he's about to say something, and he's like, but I just want you to know that, God is doing something really special in you. And he's like, I don't know what happened or why, but that day that you prayed for me, since then I've had absolutely no pain.
Wow.
At all in my back, and like no pain at all. Like he literally put the cane down for a minute, and I lost it.
Yeah. Like
I lost it because all I could remember is how I felt, and it was honestly like it was the greatest thing in the world for me, and I say that as someone like we've already we know me, right? Like I'm controlling, I'm not submissive at all. I battle with this on a daily basis. So for God to do it in a way that took me out of it, literally broke me. Like I would have rather have had that happen the way that it did, so that I knew that it was God, than for me to ever go, I've got healing hands.
Exactly. I was about to say that. I was about to say,
I'm like, look, apparently I didn't heal the microphone. I'm going to heal you. I went to Benny Hinn in like 20 minutes, you know what I mean?
I was actually going to say that it had to happen that way, because then you knew it wasn't you. Because if you felt like, I spoke and it was me and I have these hands, I did this and I did that. And it's like, the way I spoke and God gave me this gift and I'm a healer. And it's like, no, you're like, that was the worst.
Yeah.
Because you were submitted to God. You weren't doing, because you pushed through things really strongly on your own will, like your own will. And it's like, that wasn't your will. Praying for him wasn't your will. That was God. So that was actually you surrendering to him in that moment. And you weren't speaking your own words. You were speaking what, like, God was pushing, but it's really God who heals. It's not us.
Yeah.
He just uses us.
I really want to believe that. But, here's another weird thought about that, right? Like, okay, I hear you, and I agree. And I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for the way that happened.
I want it,
But the funny thing about it is that, like you said, like, because you were submitted to God, and the reality of the matter is like, I wasn't. I did. I was obedient.
Yeah, you're obedient.
But submitted, I think, is something different, totally different. Because the weird thing about it is God, not only has God done so many things like that in my life, but the weird thing about it is, like, every time God does something really great through me, he takes me out.
Yeah.
Like, for those, some of you out there know that I'm pivotal, or I have a lot of juice. I don't want to say this in a weird way, but I deal a lot with South by Southwest, the Christian content, which is with the largest music tech and film festival in the world today. So I'm responsible for a lot of the Christian content for that festival. And the weirdest thing about it is every year, like, I'm like worried about it. Like, I'm like scared, because literally I'm not in charge. Like, everything that I'm doing, like, no matter what, like, God has removed me from the process, and I know why. And I know why, because just like that moment, he needs me to know that it's him. Right. Like, I can't even personally feel like I have a right to claim credit or glory every time God does something in my life. And I'm not kidding you. When it comes to South by, when it comes to all of these grand endeavors that God is doing through me, and he's doing crazy, like, God-sized stuff through me, he completely takes me out. Like, literally, like, I'm dealing with, like, South by Southwest, both my vehicles are broke down. I'm like, like, I don't know. It's just, I can't even express to you the things that happen to me around that time. And I'm literally so busy either fighting my own storms or enduring or trying to get through it that I'm not focused on South by or the things that it takes to really pull it off. And somehow he pulls it off every single time. And the beauty of that is that, just like that moment with healing my dad, is that I get to stand in those situations and in those conversations and be like, and I can't tell you, people will come up all day, man, congratulations, dude. I can't believe what you pulled off. And I'm like, bruh, I was in my closet crying like 3 days ago, bro. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I didn't pull nothing off, bro. I barely made it here. And it's the truth. It's the truth. It's just the way that God works through me. And it's very personal. It's really, really personal because he's doing these amazing things through me and you know, in a way for me, but he's making sure that any amount of pride or glory that any of that, any part of me that I could claim in that process, I can't every single time.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love it. I love it.
Wow.
So it's pretty dope.
Yeah. God's awesome.
He is.
He really does a lot of things.
He's also crazy. God is crazy. I'm telling you. I love that. You know what? I love that you said that because, you know, honestly, you know, this life is bonkers. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
the way that God does things, the things that he uses, that's why I always love that. He uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. It's one of my favorite scriptures because the reality of the matter is we serve a God that uses pain to heal.
Yeah.
We serve a God that uses dope fiends and gangbangers to share the gospel.
Right.
We serve a God who uses murderers to bring glory and teach love. You know, I mean, it's just none of it makes any sense. And I love it because when I grew up, I'll just say this. I think that we're seeing God move in new ways, and we're seeing God more in our world today because there's a more focus on relationship than there is religion. Now, when I grew up, you know, I'm significantly older than you, but when I grew up, you know, church was boring.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, you got your grandmother or your parents dragging you to church. No kid wanted to be there. We were sleeping in the pews. You know, if we'd had phones back then, it would have been disastrous. We'd have been on that. You know what I mean? And you know, you come away from this thing like, you know, God's just, I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, where's he? It's just boring. But when you have a relationship with God and you see God that we're coming to know, I think in this day and time, in the context of a relationship, he is the farthest. Like this is crazy. Like if I approached problems or obstacles before God, I could handle it a certain way. It was probably really effective for me. But now that you know God, he has to teach you to fight differently. And then more importantly, just like I said, all these things happen and they don't make sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Until the end. Like
until
the end.
True.
Until it all comes together.
Yeah, it does.
And you're like, this is what you're doing, God?
Yeah.
That's what I felt like with my job.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that because you're absolutely right. I mean, no matter what you're going through, you know, just endure it. Paul says, count it all joy. I mean, that means count the obstacles and the losses. Count it all joy because there's a reason. There's a reason that you went through it. There's a reason that I had to go through things my way, and there's a reason that I still have to go through things a certain way. Because it doesn't have to make sense to me because it makes sense to him. And there's always a time later on where you're like looking back and you're going,
Right. That's how I felt with my job. I was like, I was doing so many things where I was like, oh, I'm frustrated or I'm this or I'm that. And then I go through and I realize like, oh God, you're right. If I would have just handled this with grace, if I would have just not let people bother me in certain ways, if I would have handled things this and that, like you were getting me to this point where all is well. And there was a process and you were going through the process and you were doing it. It's nothing I could do all I had to do was just surrender and obey and just go through the process. And even though it feels blind, but it's also not at the same time because he tells you what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But it's like, we'll just be confused in the moment. Like, okay, you told me to do this, but now I'm having all these problems or there's these troubles and then all of a sudden at the end, it's like, oh, now it came together. Yeah. Now this makes sense.
Better for it.
Yeah, better for it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because I've learned so much at this job. I've become more of a professional.
Yeah.
I've realized things about myself because I don't have kids. Yeah. So I didn't realize I can come off like kind of soft or very like, I can come off soft, but I'm actually pretty firm. And that's what someone said, was like, I can come off like, okay, like she's a
I can
nice
attest to that.
person. I do.
She don't let me slide.
I do.
At all.
I come off very like, I think I come off very like soft and like nice girl, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, I have very strong. Like,
I honestly, I love that about you. Because we said a long time ago, like, that's the kind of person I need to be in the room with.
Yeah.
You know, a strong woman, you know, it's going to tell me to shut up when I need to be told to shut up, you know, which you will do. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's been cool. So I'm just really appreciative. I feel like that's where God has me right now, is I'm like, wow, he's revealed to me, like, this is what's happening. And so now things are going, I feel like things are going to get better at my job.
Maybe.
And I think they're going to get better at my job.
Yeah, maybe.
And then I leave on a high note.
Yeah.
I believe that's what's
you know
going to
what?
happen.
It's crazy.
For me.
So you said that you were, earlier when you were talking about that, right? And I want to share this with you. This is really, really dope. You know, we go through a lot of things that I actually had a pastor. We were dealing with a lot of hurt, a lot of church hurt, a lot of just not feeling welcome or worthy, or just like we were never going to be good enough in certain situations. And I know we're running over on time, but I think this is really important to get this out. And I not only do I think it could be beneficial to you, but this is amazing advice for anybody. One thing that you have to learn about God, and I had a pastor kind of tell you this. We were debating leaving this church, and we just, God, it was a terrible experience, and it was just, it was not healthy in our house and our heart or anything like that. And so, you know, we sought counsel. And when we sought counsel, I got some of the best advice that I've ever heard in my entire life. And I've regurgitated it ridiculously multiple times because it's that good. The first thing that this pastor said, Pastor Mel Stauber, first thing that he said is, he said that the one thing that you have to understand about God is that he will always take you from glory to glory to glory. So, and this is for this, I want to kind of use that in what you were talking about towards your job, because you're like, I just like, you know, I'm ready to go somewhere else. I'm ready for the next chapter. Da, 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 da. You have to remember that if you leave hurt, or if you leave in a situation that's not healthy, that's not God.
Right.
That's not God, because God only takes you from glory to glory to glory.
Wow.
So there will be a moment if he wants you to leave, that you will leave on good terms. That in essence is God. But this is a really cool thing that he taught me too, and I'm so grateful for this. He said one thing that I've learned after doing decades of ministry is that with God there's never a push without a pull. In other words, God's not going to tell you to get another job without having a job to go to, or God's not going to remove you from a church without a new home to go to.
That's true.
So I think the beautiful thing about that, and the reason I'm sharing it, is just like your job or anything else that you're faced with God, there's always an answer to the problem.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And there is always a push. There's always a pull with the push. And he will always take you from glory to glory to glory. So if and when you are meant for a new job, he's going to have that job set up.
I completely believe that, because that's what happened with me coming to this job.
Yeah.
I had my other marketing job where I was selling wine at the time. And I knew for a few months I knew for a few months that I wasn't supposed to be there anymore. Yeah. I knew it. But I stayed in. Yeah. And then he got me this job. And after I got this job, I got fired from the other one.
Nice.
And it was like, when she called me to do a Zoom call, I was like, yeah, I'll do the call. She's like, hey, I'm sorry to say. I'm like, nope, you don't have to be sorry. It's fine. Everything's good. We're good. We're on good terms. I support your business. I support your company. It's great, But I already knew it was time to go. And he had it set up just like you said, with the church. Both of those situations happened to me.
Yeah.
Back in like February, I think, January, February. Both of those situations happened where I left the other church. And I didn't leave on the best terms, but I left knowing I stayed until God told me to leave.
Yeah, we did too.
And I was like, I even went to church for 2 weekends kind of upset. Like, I'm here for you, God.
Oh, we did that for months.
Yeah, I went for a.
There was times where I had to walk out. There was literally like, and I hate to say, but there was times that I had to walk out of the service. I had to go out into the corridor. I literally I don't believe a thing y'all saying.
I was upset.
Like I'm in there. I know I'm the demon in this whole thing because I'm in there. There's no forgiveness in my heart. I'm over here going, man, you suck. You know what I mean? That was terrible. There was many times I had to walk out of service.
No, I sat in there like, God, I'm here for you. I'm not here for them. I'm here for you. And it took me to have to, actually, the day before I left that church, I went that last Sunday, but the night before I had already prayed and looked up churches. That's how I found Faith Culture. I prayed and looked up churches, and God led me to that one, and I was very convicted on that one. But he was like, wait, still go tomorrow to this church, but you're ending it, right? So I went, and I had a talk with the pastor. Didn't go well. Right. I was like, that's that. Went to Faith Culture Church, and it was just like home. Like I was supposed to be there.
Yeah. Shout out to Faith Culture. Yeah. Pastor
Gerald.
Pastor Gerald.
Yeah.
And my dude TK.
Yeah. I
love TK. And you got some really great people in that church.
They're really good. Yeah.
In Round Rock. Yeah.
They're really good. They're the ones who actually helped bring the writer of that book in, the Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons. So they're very much into prophesying and being prophetic, and they're very spirit-led as well. They're a very spirit-led church.
Yeah.
So I really like them a lot. I feel the spirit. I mean, for weeks I was going in, and I just go in and I'll cry. Like I just go in and cry during the, like praise and worship and service, and especially praise and worship. And that didn't happen to me before. I mean, the other church I did, but before all this,
it's nice when you find a home.
Yeah,
it is really nice when you find a home.
It is nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. We thank God we're planted again.
Yeah.
Families back, planted again.
But you know what? Everything's always changing, right? I'm glad I'm planted in the church, and God's setting things up. But it's always like we're always evolving, right? The only constant is change. Yeah. So we're always evolving to the next step, the next thing, and hopefully those people stay with us in the evolution and in the change.
Well, the way that we left, I think that's exactly what it was about, was making sure that our connection to the body and the people that we had considered family for so long, that we were leaving, but we weren't leaving them.
Yeah.
And we've maintained those relationships because of the way that we waited and left until, because of the way that we waited until he said, and left in a healthy position.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I did go back to that church one time, and it went well. I was very welcomed, and it was very.
I wish
they
I
were
could
very
say
excited.
We went back one time, and I still had to go out to the corridor. I did not want to be in that sanctuary.
Because that was the church that delivered me, and so they are great people, and I love them.
That's a tough one to think about, because honestly, I have to remember, and my wife has to point that out to me.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm forgiving. I'm about 100 deep in forgiving specific people at this church. I'm constantly doing it because I know I haven't yet. But my wife has had to remind me, though. I mean, that's where I found God.
Yeah.
And I can't devalue that or in any way forget that, that place has to hold a special, spot in my heart.
They're still God's children. Yeah. They're still God's children. They're not.
Maybe.
See,
maybe
we'll work on that.
I don't know, man. When you've got it, I don't know. I could go off. What's funny is I'm actually wearing a pair of shoes right now that, they were my favorite pair of shoes 5-6 years ago. I had the bright orange fluorescent cone Air Force Ones, man. They were dope, man. They were so bright. And I actually had a pastor tell me that I couldn't serve on the prayer team because of those shoes. Because
the Air Force Ones?
Yeah, because they're bright and bold. I literally. So go ahead and tell me again that that's God's children, and I'm gonna say, maybe not.
They might be. Everybody's just they just have their own. They have their own
Jesus, their own Jesus.
No,
your own different Jesus.
Their own beliefs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That the bright shoes keeps you out of the kingdom of God and the ability to prayer. Of course.
It happens. That's the same thing I dealt with. Was I was criticized by a person because I got on the, I got up there and I gave this wonderful sermon, basically, right? I got to
Yeah,
give a word, right?
Right.
I give a great word. I'm praying all this stuff. And a lady criticized me because my stomach was showing. Because I guess when I was moving, because I was moving and I was praying and I was doing something and I was moving around, that my shirt came up a little bit and my stomach showed a little bit. You're right.
You're terrible.
Just a terrible person.
Terrible.
Like, how horrible.
How dare you showed skin and I wore bright shoes.
How dare us?
Oh, God.
Maybe we're the ones.
Oh, my God. I'm out of here. I give up. Hey, look, check it out, man. We went way overboard, but that's okay, man. We love to be real. We love to talk about Jesus, and you know, sometimes you got to talk about the things that you go through in order to understand just how personal this walk with God is.
And we're truly spirit-led right now.
Truly spirit-led.
Truly spirit-led.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that talking about my shoes and gossiping about pastors that hurt me is spirit-led, but I appreciate the bone. Thanks for including me. You know what I mean? Hey, look, check it out, man. We're going to get out of here. We want to remind you, though, the Light ATX on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can see the full episodes of our show every week on the Light ATX on YouTube. And again, you can listen to us live on FM right here in the Georgetown, North Austin area on 106.7 FM. We love y'all. God bless y'all. Y'all make sure you keep it God and stay lit. Chad and Janae. See you next week.